There's a moment most people don't talk about. When standing up from a chair takes a little more effort than it used to. When you pause before carrying groceries. When balance feels less automatic, and you quietly wonder if this is just part of getting older. What's interesting is that these changes aren't only about strength, they're about independence, the small, everyday abilities that let you live life on your own terms. And for many people, the confusing part is this. You're still eating, still moving, still trying to do the right things, yet your body doesn't respond the same way it once did. If you've ever thought, why does this feel harder now? You're not imagining it. As we age, the way our bodies absorb nutrients, recover overnight, and maintain daily energy can quietly shift, often without clear explanations. In this video, we're going to gently unpack what's really going on behind those changes, from how food is processed differently over time to why sleep, hydration, and daily habits matter more than most people realize. Before we continue, I'm curious, have you noticed any small changes like this in your own daily routine? You're welcome to share your experience in the comments, because once you understand what's happening beneath the surface, the next part might completely change how you think about supporting your health as the years go by. There's a quiet moment many people experience as the years go by. It might happen in the morning, when standing up from a chair takes just a little more effort than it used to, or when carrying groceries feels heavier than expected, or when balance doesn't feel as automatic as it once did. These moments don't usually arrive with alarms or dramatic warnings. They slip into daily life gently, almost politely, and that's what makes them so easy to dismiss. For a lot of people, these changes raise a simple but deeply emotional question. Is this just how aging works now, or is something else going on beneath the surface? What's important to understand is that these experiences aren't really about strength in the way we usually think of it. They're about independence. They're about being able to move through your day without hesitation, without planning every step, without wondering whether your body will cooperate the way it used to. And here's where many people feel confused. They haven't stopped caring about their health. They're still eating meals, still trying to stay active, still making what feel like reasonable choices, yet their body doesn't respond the same way anymore. Energy feels less predictable. Recovery takes longer. Small tasks require more focus. It can feel frustrating and sometimes even discouraging, especially when no one has explained why this shift happens so gradually. One of the most overlooked pieces of this puzzle is how the body itself changes with age, not in a dramatic or broken way, but in subtle, biological ways that affect how nutrients are absorbed and used. Digestion doesn't work exactly the same at 60 or 70 as it did at 30. Appetite cues can soften. The gut may move food through the system differently. Even when people eat similar foods to what they always have, their bodies may not extract nutrients with the same efficiency. That's not a personal failure. It's a normal part of human aging that simply doesn't get discussed often enough. This is why habits that worked for decades can suddenly feel less effective. It's also why many people feel guilty or confused, wondering if they're doing something wrong. In reality, the rules didn't disappear, they evolved, and understanding that evolution can be surprisingly empowering. When people realize their body is changing how it processes food, rest, and recovery, the conversation shifts from blame to awareness. Take protein, for example, a nutrient that's often discussed in very loud, very extreme ways online. Many messages focus on eating more and more, as if quantity alone is the answer, but current health discussions increasingly point toward a more balanced view. It's not just about how much protein is consumed, but about quality, variety, and how it's spaced across the day. Different sources are digested at different speeds. Some feel lighter, some sit longer, some pair better with other foods. And for aging bodies, this balance matters more than extremes. Instead of framing protein as a single solution, it helps to think of it as part of a broader pattern. Meals that feel satisfying, manageable, and supportive rather than overwhelming. This is where plant-based sources, animal-based sources, and mixed meals can all coexist without competition. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. And consistency becomes much easier when food feels enjoyable and realistic, rather than like a chore or a prescription. But food is only part of the story. One of the biggest influences on how the body feels day to day actually shows up after the lights go out. Sleep plays a foundational role in how muscles feel, how energy is restored, and how resilient the body feels the next morning. As people age, sleep often becomes lighter and more fragmented. Falling asleep can take longer. Waking up during the night becomes more common, and that interrupted rest can quietly affect how refreshed the body feels, even if total sleep time seems adequate. Within broader health conversations, there's growing awareness that sleep quality supports recovery processes that happen naturally overnight. This isn't about chasing deep sleep numbers or rigid routines. It's about recognizing that rest, relaxation, and evening habits can influence how the body resets. Nutrients found in everyday foods, along with calming routines, are often discussed as part of this picture. Not as fixes or cures, but as gentle supports that work alongside the body's natural rhythms. Daily energy is influenced by another factor many people underestimate: hydration. As we age, thirst cues often become less noticeable, even when the body still needs fluids. Mild dehydration doesn't always feel dramatic, but it can show up as fatigue, heaviness, or a sense that muscles tire more quickly. Hydration also interacts with how the body handles carbohydrates and fiber, which in turn affects how steady energy feels throughout the day. When blood sugar rises and falls sharply, people may notice energy crashes, irritability, or that drained feeling that appears without warning. Foods that digest more slowly, meals that include fiber, and steady hydration are commonly discussed in public health conversations as ways people naturally support more stable daily energy. Again, this isn't about strict rules. It's about patterns that help the body feel more predictable and less reactive. Another topic that's often misunderstood is inflammation. It's sometimes portrayed as an enemy to eliminate, when in reality it's a normal process the body uses to respond and adapt. The issue isn't inflammation existing, it's when it stays elevated for long periods without balance. Lifestyle discussions today often frame inflammation awareness as a long-term consideration rather than a short-term battle. Movement, sleep, stress management, and varied nutrition all play roles in how the body maintains that balance over time. Hormonal shifts are part of this broader picture as well. Hormones influence energy, appetite, recovery, and how tissues respond to daily demands. These shifts happen gradually and differently for everyone. Instead of focusing on boosting or correcting anything, many health educators now emphasize supporting overall stability, routines that reduce stress, meals that feel nourishing, and habits that work with the body rather than against it. What ties all of this together is a growing realization that sustainable health doesn't come from dramatic changes or short-term fixes. It comes from patterns that are flexible enough to last. Adding foods gradually, adjusting routines gently, paying attention to how the body responds rather than forcing it to perform. This approach respects the fact that people live full lives, with families, responsibilities, preferences, and limits. Rather than viewing nutrition as a strict plan or a replacement for medical care, it helps to see it as one piece of a much larger picture. Seeds, vegetables, proteins, and familiar foods can all play small supporting roles without being treated as solutions on their own. That mindset not only keeps expectations realistic, it builds trust in the process, and trust in your own ability to adapt thoughtfully over time. If any of this feels familiar, the quieter changes, the questions about energy and independence, the desire to support your health without extreme measures, you're not alone. These are some of the most common concerns people share as they think about the years ahead. If you'd like, you can take a moment to share what you've noticed in your own routine in the comments. Your experience may resonate with someone else who's watching right now. And if this conversation feels helpful, consider liking or sharing the video with someone who's been asking similar questions. These topics deserve calm, honest discussion, because when we understand how the body changes and how small, consistent habits can support it, the future doesn't have to feel uncertain. It simply becomes something we navigate with a little more clarity. And that's where the next part of this conversation really begins.